Hello, 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 and welcome to Mahala Monday. Thank you very much for joining us. My name is Dugald, and as always, she's here, everybody. It's not always that she's here, but she's here today.
Who says Dougal? I'm always here. If you're not here, I'm not here. Imagine. No, we're always together. We're always together. Welcome, everybody. I haven't said it in a long time as well, Dougal. I hope you've got your cup of coffee, your tea, your glass of wine, or your glass of water if you do, or just your plate of food with us right now. I wish I had my plate of food now. I'm hungry.
I say you here, but you're not here, but you are here.
I'm here.
I don't know, it made sense in my head, but when the words come out, it don't make sense. Does it make sense?
It makes sense, Dougal. At least I know you well, so don't worry.
Yeah. But thank you very much for joining us. What we would love you to do, though, is, of course, please like and subscribe. Certainly do that and share this broadcast in proud association tonight with the Word magazine. So just want to say once again, thank you very much to the Word Mag. You got to go check it out because it is absolutely a fabulous magazine. So much information, so much thought-provoking content for you, which is really fabulous. So when you do have a moment, definitely go check it out. It is an interactive show, so we welcome your questions, your comments. If you have any tricky questions, do pose them to Rhoda. She's well prepared for these. Do not pose them to me. All right, so many things that I don't even know how to start tonight, how to introduce this, but there's so many things. Let me ask you this.
There's a lot.
Do you know of any civil engineers? Do you know a civil engineer? Just anybody?
Only I do in the men's side.
Anyway.
Yeah, but not a lady as
Okay,
such,
so
but I
you-
do in the men's side, yeah.
all right.
Yeah.
Okay,
I used to
so-
work for the city and I used to work with the engineering department. so
All right.
That's why I
Do you know
would
any chemical engineers?
Not chemical engineers,
All
no.
right. Okay. Do you know a chemical engineer that is an investor, that is an entrepreneur, that holds masters in chemical engineering, an executive master of business administration?
Let's just say we have met one recently.
That has also studied at Oxford. And do you know anybody like that? And then do you know a civil engineer that also boasts a wealth of expertise and an incredible amount of passion for humans?
We've learned to know two of these people.
These are probably the best way to describe our guests tonight because
Beautifully said.
we're talking about two wonderful people that have put their talents, determination, and passion into workplace, and more so with their professional experience. And as you know, with our trailer, we told you we're talking all things around STEM. Which is science, technology, engineering, and maths. And these two wonderful people, Naadiya Moosajee and Hema Vallahb, the two of them studied together and entered fields of engineering, civil and chemical respectively, and so this is quite a challenging field, but not challenged mainly based on their talent or passion, purely because they were women.
Woman, exactly.
And then they reached out to any aspirant people that would like to enter the field, but they kind of set the pace as well for you to be easy into the field and to enjoy it so you can be the best version of yourself. So joining us tonight here on Mahala Monday, Naadiya is here. Moosajee, Naadiya, good evening. Hello, welcome to Mahala Monday. Thank you so much for being here. How are you doing?
So much for having me. It's such an honor and a pleasure to be on your show.
Oh man, you're so kind. You're so kind. But it really is because we started off this, and I was just saying to Rhoda, I don't even know how to introduce this, but clearly, but I want you to share the story because you were a civil engineer. How did you become a civil engineer?
So I always say that engineers, you usually get into engineering one of three ways. One is you had a male relative, usually a dad or an uncle who was an engineer, and you were inspired by them being an engineer. So that one was me. The second way was, a teacher told you were good at maths and science, and that's what engineers did. And that's also not me. And the third way is actually me. I call it the sheer dumb luck way. Complete accidental engineer. I talk a lot, so please just stop me, And my mom said, I said I was going to be a lawyer because lawyers talk a lot. And, also I thought that lawyers stretch the truth. And I used to stretch the truth. So that's what they did. They don't, not all the time. But my mom said to me, "You'll be wasting your talents." And I was like, "Oh, but I don't know what else I'm going to do." And I went to the place of divine wisdom, Google, and I said,
Google.
what do people who like geography do? Which I loved geography at school. And I found something called geology, and my mom was like, no geology, because you're going to be in the mines. I can't let my daughter go down into the mines. And then I said, oh, okay, well, what is back to Google? And, what you still like geography, still rocks, but no mines. And something called geotechnical engineering came out, which is in the Department of Civil Engineering. And so I applied for that in grade 11, and I was like, got early acceptance. And I said, it's divine will that I must be a civil engineer.
You're not gonna argue it. It's set out.
No, exactly. Came from the universe. And it turns out though that I did third year. You do geotechnical engineering, and it's all about foundations and soil, and making sure that buildings don't fall down from the bottom. And I hated it. So. But I really loved, the other parts of civil engineering, which is all around how do we create a better world for civilians, so civilian infrastructure. And I kind of got drawn towards transport engineering because, getting people from point A to point B is something really important for me. I feel like it's almost ingrained in our constitution. We don't use the word transport. What we say, we need people to get access to water, access to education, access to services, and access means transport.
Yeah.
And so for me, that's been almost a calling in the early part of my career around how do we get people to access all of these things so that, they can have a better life.
Yeah. But that purely speaks to a very plain and simple thing. That speaks to your passion. That has obviously ignited it and sort of got you on the journey. But I just want to take you back to your varsity days. At the time when you were now the first year, after orientation week, you were first, how many women were in your lecture halls, in your classes? How many were you if there was, like, let's say, 100 students?
We were 5.
Wow.
Yeah, we were 5 girls in our class. The worst part is in orientation week, first year engineering, the dean comes, and I don't know if they still do the speech, but the dean comes and he says, look to your left and look to your right. The people on either side of you are not going to make it.
Oh, wow.
Engineering has one of the highest dropout rates for any degree anywhere in the world. And I just kept going, oh my goodness, somebody looked at me because they didn't. And it was 2 girls from my class sitting next to me. So I was just like, no, we can't all fail here.
Oh my goodness. What a way to start.
Yes. Baptism by fire, the engineering way.
Wow.
Oh,
and then, of course, you enter the field. Now, of course, you were never alone in this because you collaborated and you teamed up with Hema, of course, who in her own right, she's now a chemical engineer. What can you share about her story from those early days?
Yeah, they always go, how do you find your soulmate? And I always say that Hema and I are soulmates.
Oh, wow.
My husband knows this. He's not threatened in the least. I always say, you can always find a husband, but a good business partner and a soulmate, it's very, very hard to find. And we actually weren't friends at varsity. We only became friends through the organizations that we worked together on. So her path to kind of chemical engineering was very, very different. On a full ride scholarship at the University of Cape Town, and we were in different faculties. So we actually only met quite late in our studies because our faculties are separate. and became friends afterwards. And now, lifelong partners and soulmates.
Wow.
Yeah, it was actually just through like this shared values, this vision to create this better world, that we found each other.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah. And I want to ask you this in terms of STEM, okay? And because I want to, where did your interest stem from? So part of the fun
Stem
on
from.
this, but in terms of when it comes to science, technology, all of this, the maths, and what it means, the jump from high school through to varsity, we all understand it to be a bit of a, you need a bit of a trampoline. There's a bit of a boost required. In your time, it was exactly that.
I mean, I don't think a boost, maybe a crane to like pull you up. It was massive, and I remember clearly my first year. I was coming from a school where I was like top student and all of those lovely things in high school. And you get to first year university, and you're walking around, and your first test scores come out, and I failed my first maths test like really badly, and it was the first time I'd ever failed
Oh, my word.
anything. And I was devastated, and I was walking around campus, just about to like give it all up.
Oh.
And a friend, my sister is older than me, and her friend kind of bumped into her on campus, and she said, "Nadia, why are you so down?" And I said, "No, I just failed my maths test." And she's like, "It's not the end of the world." And I was just like, "I'm too dumb to be here." And she said, "You know what? I've seen dumber people come through this university and graduate. You're going to be fine." And I figured out early on, actually, how do you pass university, especially a degree as difficult as engineering. And I use this because this is such great lessons in life. I found the smartest guy in the classroom.
Sure.
And the guy's name is Marlon. He used to ask questions to the lecturer that even stumped the lecturer. And I was just like, I must make friends with Marlon. And I went to Marlon, and I was just like, "Marlon, you really need to help me with maths, right?" And Marlon stayed in residence, and I stayed at home. And my mom had this thing about baking muffins. Like, honestly, if you stood still long enough, she'd put you in a muffin. We would just, with like cinnamon muffins, spinach, everything was a muffin. She went through a muffin making phase. And I was like, "Look, Marlon, I can offer you all you can eat muffins if you help me with math." And he was missing food. And so Marlon and I spent lots of time in the library helping me think through maths, because maths, you can't study like from a textbook side. You've got to practice it, and you've got to kind of figure out the problems. And honestly, I think that first year I got through first year maths with loads of prayer, and Marlon with the maths.
Yeah. Wow.
I just want to, sorry, Douglas. I just wanted to ask you on that. I'm just listening to you now. Obviously, the challenge is just on studying and having to write your exams and it. The fact that, how was the support, obviously you being a woman entering this field, and I mean, just listening to you saying there was 5, and I can just imagine how many students obviously enrolled for this as well. How was the support, obviously, from your family, your mother now also saying, okay, you know what, it's obviously supposed to be a man's world, though if you look back 20 years even, how was the support around you? Why did you find that?
And let me just say that, there's research that shows like women who are in engineering, a lot of the time the drive is because they had a strong family support, and specifically from their dads. So my dad early on in life always said you could be anything, and really encouraged us. And he always said, and I hated it for him at the time, but now I completely understand. He always said there was always room for improvement. So I'd come home and I'd be like, "Dad, I got like 90% for geography." And he'd be like, "What happened to the other 10%?
Sounds like
Just they said, you do this to your kids. Oh my goodness. So and the once I lost it, and I said, like my friend at high school, I said, her parents are so happy with the results. If she had to come home with my results, they would be like over the moon. And why are you giving me all the time?"
Oh, sure.
And he said, "I know your potential, and you can get 100.
Oh, wow.
And when I got through engineering, the first year was really hard, and he was just like, he was bracing himself for like that I'm not going to make the first year. And you know, at the end of it, I was like a hello 50%. So going from a student who like 80s and 90s was the norm to going to being happy with 50% was a step down for all of us in the family. But there was a lot of support. But the funny thing is, in engineering first year, almost all the engineers do very similar first year, except for the introductory to your discipline of engineering. So I got 50% for like maths, for chemistry, for physics. I was in the 50s, 60s, but I got the class medal, so the top mark for the civil engineering course in first year. So I'll probably go down in history as the only student to nearly have failed first year, but got the class medal for civil engineering.
Oh, wow.
That's incredible. But you know what? Just going back to what it's about the effort, because I say that to the kids all the time. It's about the effort.
All the time.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It is. It's just pushing yourself to the point of where you want to be. That's what world record holders do. You just constantly push. But Naadiya, we got a quick comment there for you, and a question that we just want to pose to you, and then we want to move on and talk a little bit more about Women Hub. Mark Sauls says, so true, Naadiya, platonic soulmates are indeed a real thing.
Oh, there you go.
That's what he says. Hubert says, good evening, guys.
Good evening,
Sounds like it's true listening to Naadiya that engineers are solutions looking for problems.
True, Hubert, true.
Thanks for that. So there you are. You've gone through the whole student thing. You've done well. Class medal, all parents are proud. And then you enter the professional space. Or just before that, Women Hub. When did that originate? What was the springboard for that?
So before Women Hub, we started Women Eng while we were at university. So studying third year civil engineering. So all engineers have to do vacation work.
Yeah.
You go and spend all your holidays going and working on in your field of discipline. And I went to a steel fabrication plant. And two things happened at this plant. So the one thing, I'd asked them, how much do you pay your interns? And then they said to me, we don't pay interns, it's for the experience. And I said, okay, cool, I'm here for the experience, because they're like, you know nothing, you're just a third year student. And I was like, okay, cool, no problem, here for the work. And then when I finished the internship, I got back to university and found out that all the guys that were doing the internship with me as well all got paid.
No.
I was the only person that wasn't paid during my internship.
So many questions. Whoa, Naadiya.
What?
Were you the only one at this specific organization and company?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
So my friends had interned at the same company, and they were all paid. But I wasn't. And we were also, all standard, all in the same degree, same class. But, differences when we got out there. The second kind of piece was, I'm a happy person. I speak to everybody. I'm friendly. I don't care whether you're like the person who sweeps the shop floor or the CEO. I talk to everybody. And I naturally smile at everybody. And I'm a very happy person. I've got a positive outlook on life. But what happened was there was a site foreman who misunderstood my personality and thought that, I was just, open for whatever.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I shut it down very quickly because I was just like, dude, not interested. And they took that very, very personally. Like, how dare I, the audacity, I led him on. And I was like, dude, I just spoke to you.
Word.
And they didn't have the words for this at the time, but he got hold of my, your name and your surname at the university. You could guess somebody's student number. You could get their email address, their academic records. So cybersecurity wasn't a thing back then. And he would email me all these terrible things. And I never said anything to anybody because I was just like, it's kind of my fault. I smiled at him. And I was friendly. And I kind of kept it inside. But, I'd spoken to a number of the other women in our class, and I was just like, I'm tired, we should all go and work for, like, somewhere else. And at the time, you have all these like banks and management consulting companies and everybody looking for engineers on campus. So they take you to these fancy dinners and try and recruit you. And I thought, no, I'm going to go and work for one of these companies because it just seems better than going to work in engineering where it's so harsh on such harsh environment. And when you start to talk to people, you realize that if we all left, nothing would change, right? We all just keep whatever we had inside. And that's really where I started Womenj, was to be able to transform the engineering industry by bringing in strong female engineering talent, by showcasing that women engineers bring something very special and dynamic into the industry to help solve some of the biggest challenges that we have. But also we think differently, we behave differently. And now I speak to a lot of the companies and they're like, we love women engineers. They are so meticulous. They work so much harder. They're so much more diligent. But back then it was really around how do we almost lobby the industry to change based on our really bad experiences.
Wow.
But also it is women who's entering the space that you can share these stories. There's a platform for interaction and a sort of a network of somebody who might have walked that little road and have got different experiences. Is it how does it work? Does somebody just randomly join?
So Womenj, we used to, and we still do, we run programs. Usually female engineering students apply for the programs that we run. We run development programs, and usually we partner with the engineering industry, so it's also a conduit for them to get jobs and opportunities for them. We run these programs called the Girl Eng programs. So these are for high school girls.
Oh, wow.
And it's around inspiring them to go and study engineering and tech careers. And we run tech camps, which focus on now coding, robotics, and sustainable engineering. So it's a very much more programmatic approach, and it's an open application process. So anybody can apply to attend one of the programs, and we get funding from organizations both internationally as well as locally to be able to cover the full cost of participating on the programs.
Oh, wow.
So it's for the young women who are interested in either, they're either thinking about studying engineering and they want to go onto the high school programs, or they are currently studying engineering and they're looking for that network, that support to help build their careers. They then go onto what we call the Women's Fellows program, and we run these programs at TVET colleges as well. So for young women that are at a TVET college, so universities of technology, TVET, high schools, we're covering like the full realm of students and being able to support them. And this kind of gets us to Hub because it's now almost 10 years ago. We looked at how do we really make Womenj sustainable. Only rely on donors and and funders to be able to fund what we were trying to do. And we started our own company, and we do a lot of education and training in digital skills, and also entrepreneurship. So being women entrepreneurs, we faced very similar challenges to women in the engineering industry. And we want to change that. So we develop women entrepreneurs in STEM. And so we run a women in engineering program, women in mining program, women in tech. And to be able to really support women entrepreneurs, we don't just want to work in the industry, we want to own it. Because that's where true transformation happens, is through ownership.
Is it
amazing?
And the footprint of these programs that you have, and if we just look at maybe like to the best of your knowledge, let's just say in high schools, to people who might be like young women learners who might be interested in the sort of field of engineering, how does it operate in schools across provinces, or is it province specific?
No, so I mean, we've worked across South Africa. We've actually worked in 33 countries around the world.
Wow.
So all the way from like Brazil, all the way to Indonesia, and then like from South Africa all the way to the UK. So the high school programs we run provincially, we run nationally as well. We run internationally, so the Girl Inch programs, the high school programs we're running as well in Namibia and Botswana. We've got lots of programs running. So we've worked with about 150,000 women and girls to date.
Oh, wow.
What?
How many? I just want you to say the number again.
150,000.
Oh,
Sure.
wow. And then,
Hats off to
that is
you.
impressive. That is absolutely
Wow.
impressive. That is really, really impressive. It must be said. It must be
Sure.
said. I wanna touch with you in coming into this field of work. And you mentioned the fact that you weren't paid, whereas your male counterparts at the time, as part of the cohort, they were paid, but you weren't. Now, this is something that comes up a lot, in terms of the inequality when it comes to remuneration for the different genders. Obviously, I'm of the opinion that we are making small inroads. We are not nowhere near where we want to be, where it's, you know, the way it should be. But do you think, or do you believe that in 2025, we still have women, and especially, if I can say this, and I'm saying it sort of in an inverted way, in a male-dominated industry, which is what engineering is, to the best of my knowledge and opinion at this point in time, are we making inroads where at least the remuneration is on par?
So we're making progress, but progress takes time. Unless you have like a real jolt to the system that like overnight changes the ways in which people behave. And you know, because we've just kind of gone through, you know, in the 9th of the 6th of March is International Women's Day. And there's an organization that literally every company that wishes women well on International Women's Day, they get all their pay data. And then they go, thank you so much, but you've been paying your women 20% less than their male counterparts. Like, so they've literally been using publicly available data that the companies have to disclose.
Wow.
So it's not just South Africa. Their focus is kind of around the world. Any country, like if they can get hold of the pay data in that country for that company, they will share that on Twitter, especially when these companies are, you know, doing these lofty messages to women on it.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it still happens. And for me, there's two things, because there's the industry not paying, but there's also the thing about negotiation skills. And I think, you know, with women, we would negotiate time versus negotiating money. So I would rather negotiate a 4-day work week so I can take 1 day off so that I can focus. And this is actually, when I started out my career, I negotiated with a company a 4-day work week, so that I could focus 1 day on women and 4 days working with them. And I never negotiated my salary. I was like, okay, you're going to pay me whatever you're going to pay me, but I actually need time, because time was more important at the time than money was. At some point in my career, I worked for a development consultancy. We were busy doing public transport rollout in George. But they used to use the consultants and people like me in terms of the recruitment process. So we'd interview every person who, you know, would want to come and work at the company. And for me, it was interesting because almost every guy we interviewed negotiated their salary. And every woman that we interviewed, out of all the women, there was one that negotiated her salary.
Wow.
Yo. Excellent.
Wow.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Huh. I'm trying to think now what I did in interviews I've had. Yeah, I negotiated too. Yeah. Yeah.
Salary or time?
Well, both.
So that's probably
Zero
it's a
time,
good
more
one.
money. That was me. That was just the way I roll. Yeah, but that's quite an interesting observation. That is very much. But in terms of the social enterprise that you have, try to bridge that sort of divide, making the gap. Are there any successes that you can share with us? Stories that have really warms the cockles of hearts?
You know, there's so many, but there's the other day I was on a call with one of our clients, Cecil, and they said, Nadia, you know Christine, right? And I was just like, we meet so many people, and I'm terrible typically with names. So I was just like, Christine. I was like, hi, Christine, how are you doing? You know, the person who was on the call, she's like, just excuse me, I've got a delivery. So she goes off and she goes, gets her delivery. And Christine's like, you have no idea who I am. And I was like, I'm so sorry, Christine, I don't recognize you. And she said, you know, Nadia, I was in KwaZulu-Natal, and a friend of mine was going to this Girl Eng event and didn't want to go alone. And she said, come with me. And I said, okay, cool, I'm not doing anything. And it was a whole weekend event. And I came and I listened to a chemical engineer. And in that moment, I realized that I wanted to be a chemical engineer. I wanted to go and work for Sasol in Secunda. Now, I've got questions about the Sasol in Secunda. There's not the Sasol, but the Secunda part, right? And so I'm on this call with Christine, who's sitting in Secunda as an engineer working at Sasol.
Wow.
Right? She came to a high school program, and she got inspired. She didn't know what engineering was at all until we inspired her. And you know, it's you have these interactions with these women. And the other day I was in a material shop, and this mom and this daughter is like, you know, this mom like keeps trying to like push this daughter to like have a conversation. So I can see, this conversation between mom and daughter, and I recognize it because my mom also tries to push me to go and talk to random people, right? And so the mom then just decides, no, she's going to go for it. So the mom comes up to me, she's like, you Nadia, right? And I said, yes. And you know, you must always be worried about like aunties in a material shop. Like as a Muslim woman, I can just say that. You know, it's just got ulterior motives. And you know, my daughter, she came to the Girl Eng program, and she's now studying civil engineering at CPUT.
Oh, wow.
I was just like, I have goosebumps on a daily basis almost, hearing the stories of these women who got inspired to study engineering. And even as the entrepreneur side, we have a woman who started out, and she was actually volunteer on the Girl Eng programs. And so, you know, the model is that we have, because I'm too old to now go and speak to high school girls, right? I don't know what they're talking about. I'm in a whole different age category right now. So we typically send like young female engineering students to go and speak to high school girls because of the age gap being so similar. They speak the same language.
Exactly.
I don't speak, you know, their lingo. And she was on this program, so she was part of the Girl Eng team. She went into industry. She spotted a challenge in healthcare, realizing that when a woman needs to go get her contraceptives once a month at the clinic, she needs to spend 7 hours waiting in a queue. She loses 7 hours of pay every month for something, you know, that we do like on a monthly basis. And she realized that companies are losing 7 hours of work time for women just to go and get a contraceptive. And she said, I want to start the first female digital healthcare clinic. In Zoe Health. And Tato came to us and she said, you know, this is the vision. This is what we want to do. And she spoke to Hema, who's the investor between the two of us, and we invested in Zoe Health. And so here we've got the story of this woman who contributed and you know, supported other women, started to build her company now, and we are one of her only female investors, and first female investors invested. And we want her to grow to be a massive company to help not just support women in healthcare, but to make lots of money for other women who are investing in her.
Wow. Sure. What a story. What a story. Nadia, before we go any further, we've got a comment quickly that we just want to touch base on. Hubert Paulsa, hello, who says discrimination doesn't draw the plans. Talent does. Shout out to all the women breaking stereotypes and building
What matters. So true, so
And
true.
that definitely so applies.
The word architect.
And we've got a message in from Lisa, the chief editor of Word Architect. Hi Lisa, how's it going? It says, we just love women doing it for themselves and so many other women. Congrats to Naadiya Hema for all that you do, and thanks for being part of the Word magazine. Which is great, because that is definitely something we want to touch on, because you were in an issue, which was the 12th issue, October 3 years ago.
2022, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, there we go.
And there you are, the two of you.
Lovely, lovely.
What was it like being in the magazine?
And Lisa and the team are amazing, and Marika, who's the photographer here, she captured all the good side. And let me just tell you that in this picture, you wouldn't know it, but I'm like 7 months pregnant. So,
wow.
and the team are like miracle workers.
Wow.
But you know, the piece around a couple of years ago, I did a TED talk, and they said, why don't we get inspired to study engineering? Why aren't girls going to become engineers? And the piece was around role models, and a massive piece was about media, right? Because media portrays different careers in different lights. In fact, the reason why I wanted to become a lawyer was because there was a program that I watched called Ally McBeal, and she was just so cool. You know, I'm aging myself here in terms of the show, but I loved Ally McBeal, and that's why I wanted to become a lawyer, just like Ally McBeal. And if I thought about who were the role models that were female engineers at the time, like we had Wolowitz from The Big Bang Theory, and the guy from Prison Break, right? Those are that was it. And so the role of Word Magazine, the role of you guys to be able to actually make sure that the messaging and the role models are out there. And I must say that the one group, and I'm a big Marvel junkie, but Shuri and the Black Panther was not just powerful because everybody was like Wakanda forever, but it was the first time where you had a strong female engineer, tinkerer, scientist. And so girls want to be Shuri because they get to create cool tech. And for me, that's incredible to see a woman of color in a movie playing a senior scientist, engineering, tinkering role.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
That truly is truly fantastic.
Thought of it like that.
That is really fantastic. And wow, what can I say? I want to ask you, what does the future hold? How do you see WoomHub? How do you see WoomEdge? How do you see it all developing? How do you see the landscape of engineering and generally changing? And what inroads are there that we can, as just Joe Soap, as just every person on the street, what is there that we can do?
So I think the world of STEM is changing so quickly, specifically in the tech space. So we work a lot in cybersecurity and artificial intelligence. And honestly, I was speaking to the guy. So one of the biggest artificial intelligence labs is at IBM Watson in the US. And I met one of the researchers and he's head of the lab, and he was like, I read this article a long time ago, and I was just like on AI and what it's doing in society. And I said, well, how long ago was that? And he was like, no, it's about a year. So in tech right now, a year, things are moving so quickly. And for us, we want to make sure we don't leave anyone, specifically girl children, behind in a tech-enabled future. So I talk a lot about augmented humanity. So, everybody focuses on artificial intelligence, and I go, actually, AI is great, but actually augmented humans are how do we leverage AI and other technologies to become better humans? In the in the work sense. So yes, AI can help me with my homework, but what else can it do to be able to kind of free up my time and give me more opportunity? The barrier to entry to get into technology is actually so low. These days, you can do everything online. You've got, I took Introduction to Cybersecurity and Artificial Intelligence course from Harvard University. And I've never, I have set foot at Harvard University, but not for this course. I did it all online during COVID. And so you can take any course on anything in the world, and you can learn anything. You literally can learn anything in a couple of hours, as long as you've got access to a device. And so we're doing we do four things at Hub. One is around how do we do digital skills and making sure we leave no one behind. The second is how do we support, entrepreneurship, innovation, and engineering. The third is we actually build physical spaces. So we've got spaces in Cape Town, Johannesburg, and East London, where we've partnered with Cisco, which is an American technology company, and they've donated all the latest technology. Some of the stuff in our hubs it was the first time it landed on the African continent.
Wow.
And it came into our spaces. So we've got a VR lab, and we get young people to play in VR. And it's the first time they're actually experiencing virtual reality. And when they do that, it's around how do we get them to think about how do you design better games so that you become not just people who play on your devices all the time, but creators as well. And so we've got these cool hubs, all the technology, and the next hub will probably be in Botswana, because we've got kind of South Africa covered. And then the last thing we do is raise capital and invest in women entrepreneurs. And so and Hema leads this, probably one of the most active investors of the African continent. So she's raising a $30 million fund called 535 Ventures, and investing in some of these like high growth, really incredible entrepreneurs that are using technology to be able to solve problems.
Wow.
And so when you think about these kind of four big things that we work in: talent, entrepreneurship, spaces, and capital, it's really kind of thinking what's the next wave of innovation for us. And then me personally is cybersecurity, because part of this journey was around being cyber harassed, and I didn't want anybody else to go through that process.
Wow.
And these days, young people are so sensitive to harassment and online, all sorts of horrible things. And we want to create a better virtual world. And so that's kind of the cybersecurity pieces as well in what we're doing. So a lot in STEM. There's so many opportunities out there. Literally, I'm meeting kids who are like 15, 16 years old, like making money, developing apps, and doing all sorts of things. Right? So the world is changing very, very quickly.
Yeah. Just a quick one I wanted to ask you, I think, before we end off as well, and Dougal probably has something to say. I just want to find out if there's anybody out there, companies, obviously, because I'm listening, funding and financing. How do they get hold of you? What do you guys need at this point as a company?
So a couple of things, we're always looking for partners. So companies who partner with us to be able to kind of impact others at scale. So across the country, if you're looking to be able to impact women, entrepreneurs, young people, in the regions that we operate, or even outside of South Africa, come and have a conversation with us. Hub, we always, our programs are always available for young women. We do have some programs that actually we call it gender skewed. So we do take males on the programs, but the cohorts are usually more female than they are male. Just that we can be very deliberate and more supportive. And so if people are thinking about how do they, a program called STEM is Everywhere, and it's an incubator program for early stage ideas to be able to help them grow into businesses. So, for me, there's two things. There's, yes, we're looking for partners. We're also looking for collaborators. And somebody asked me, Nadia, why do you do what you do? And I say, and one of the comments was, I'm always looking for a problem to solve. And I always say that we build out of pain, because of the pain that we face. We've built solutions to be able to solve our pain. And one of my clients said, Nadia, what would it look like when you build out of joy? So if you are out there and you're thinking of either building out of pain or building out of joy, and you want co-conspirators, come and chat to us. We love the crazy ideas.
Yeah. That is so well said. So what you got to do is definitely go check out the website, everybody, www.womhub.co.za. As simple as that. Nadia, before we let you go, and once again, thank you so much for your time. And let me just say this was so insightful.
Very much.
This is one of the most
Crazy.
amazing, remarkable conversations we've ever had. It is. And I'm glad you talk a lot. Absolutely glad you do. But before we go, there is a comment, though, that we're just going to touch base on. This comes from Mark, who says, I'm sitting watching with a woman in STEM herself, information systems specifically. We're loving the show. Is there a specific cutoff for beneficiaries?
No.
So no cutoff, no age, nothing like that.
No, and I can tell you now, so on the high school program and on the development programs, no cutoff. On the entrepreneur programs, everybody assumes that entrepreneur is the guy in the hoodie, especially in the tech space. We're seeing women in their 40s and 50s who their kids are out of the house. They don't have to worry about that anymore. And they actually are building companies at age 40 and 50, which is why our hubs have a menopause lounge. Because every woman is going to go through menopause and we need a space.
I'm sorry I'm laughing, but that's funny.
Oh, my word. Oh, brilliant, brilliant, brilliant.
Naadiya Moosajee, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for being with us here at Mahala Monday, sharing your insights, telling the stories, and most definitely what you have done par excellence is just inspire everybody. I'm inspired just listening to you.
Definitely.
So thank you so much for being here with us, and we wish you all the best with all your future ventures and everything that you do. We just wish you the best, but thank you mostly for being with us.
And send our regards to Hema as well. I mean, your partnership are amazing, and definitely soulmates as making a massive difference in making inroads in this country and around the world. Thank you.
No, thank you guys, and to Lisa and the team at Word as well. Thank you. You guys and Rhoda and Dugald have been amazing. Like as I said, the more people, the more you guys do your jobs, the easier it's going to be to do my job to inspire girls.
Nadia, thanks again. Thanks for being with us. Take care. Look after yourself. All the best. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow. Naadiya Moosajee, everybody. Wow. Also, of course, the partner, Hema Vallahb, wasn't with us here, but we spoke to Nadia. I tell you what, I really mean this. When's the last time you had such an inspiring conversation?
Can I tell you something honestly, Dugald? And I mean, I'm being extremely honest right now. I was a bit not sure how this was all going to basically pan out. And I must tell you, I thoroughly enjoyed it. Because, when it comes to STEM, obviously, you kind of like, oh, where are we going to be heading with this? What is the conversation going to be like? And I must say, Nadia has really made a massive difference just on what she had told us. Yeah. It's very interesting.
100%, because you think you were going to be presented with math problems and these sort of things, you know what I mean? This wasn't the case, which was absolutely fantastic. But once again, thank you so much to our guest. Wow, absolutely remarkable. What you got to do is definitely go check out the website. You got the details, of course. It is womhub.co.za. Very easy, which is WOMHUB. Of course, go check it out. It is absolutely fabulous. And once again, it just boils down to one little thing. You can be whatever it is you want to be. Boils down to one little thing. If you want it, it is up to you. However, whatever it is, we got to make sure everything we want is accessible to everybody. That we don't discriminate based on gender, class, or race, or religion, or whatever other ism we normally use to cut and extract. None of that is important. None of that is important. It's just another wonderful story how cream rises to the top. And it's absolutely fantastic.
I like that.
Wow.
Cream rises
Wow.
to the top.
Do you know what? I'm actually going to tell my daughter to check out engineering because like she's now in that sort of 50s. I don't know what I want to do. Like, last week you wanted to be a dinosaur. This week you wanted to be a chef. And then it's a police person. Like she's exactly there. Like every week it changes. And
Here we go, Dugald.
Yeah.
Info
this is almost a godsend conversation.
Can I tell you there, Dougal? www.wombhub.com.
Yeah.
Tell her to go and have a look at it, please.
Definitely go have a look at it. There are the details on the screen. Rhoda, thank you so much.
Thank you, Dougal. Oh, it was really interesting.
Thank you very much for watching. Thank you once again to our guests who joined us. And of course, make sure you go check out the Word Bag. Absolutely fascinating, thought-provoking, remarkable articles. You don't want to miss it. And of course, if you trust me, you're going to be inspired. And of course, when it comes out, every issue is just absolutely amazing.
And on top of it, Dougal, it's free, guys. It's free. So go and read it. It's not
Just
gonna
like
cost
the
you
stuff
anything.
Naadiya them do.
Exactly, it's free.
Free. Yeah, can you believe it? Until next time, thanks for watching. We'll catch you next week on Mahala Monday. Keep well. Bye-bye.
See you, bye.